All right, so Nave Salem just walked in, but before we get to her, we're going to talk a little bit about the Dorian Murray Foundation. So Dorian was diagnosed with an untreatable form of pediatric cancer when he was 4 years old. And before passing, he told his father that he wanted to be famous in China. So his father put the message out of DStrong on social media, and it became a worldwide phenomenon. So after that, people started posting DStrong on Facebook, and you might remember this. So celebrities started sending their message of love and support for Dorian all through the message of DStrong. So this little boy from Westerly, Dorian Murray, passed away on March 8th of 2016, and it's nearly a year ago. Melissa Murray, Dorian's mother, has been carrying on that message of DStrong over the past year, and she started the Dorian J. Murray Foundation, and I'd like to welcome Melissa Murray to the Go Local Live and the Navigate Credit Broadcast Center. Hi, Melissa. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We appreciate it, and thank you for being our first guest. It's a new venture for all of us.
Yes, it's very exciting. Very exciting.
So I just want to say, I think on behalf of many people within Rhode Island and in our community, thank you for sharing your story and your son, this message of DStrong, with all of us. I mean, it's very touching, and it's been a year, so thank you for sharing this with us. It's been a year since your son passed away. How are you and how are your family doing?
I think we're adjusting as well as we can. My family and I, we all grieve in our own ways. We all sort of have different ways of dealing with it, and we're progressing at different rates. But overall, we're all doing okay, and we're being very supportive of each other, and that's really the most important part.
And you started this foundation, and I think that has taken on a life of its own, positive messages, and you're raising money. Let's talk a little bit about the foundation.
Yeah, so the Dorian J. Murray Foundation, we did start that for Dorian in his honor. We started it because Dorian would sell his toys on the lawn in the summertime, wanting to raise money for the kids at his clinic. And so as he progressed and got sicker, we talked a little bit more about that, and he wanted to help. So this was really his idea. And then, of course, it became my passion to make a difference for pediatric cancer. So the foundation started, and now it's in his memory. And really, it's a three-part foundation. So we want to raise awareness for pediatric cancer. I feel like it's really misunderstood. And the more people understand pediatric cancer, the more funding that we will get for it. So awareness is a huge part of our campaign. Supporting families in Rhode Island and outside of Rhode Island that are fighting pediatric cancer. The financial burden is so difficult for the families.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, I was a single mom, and I had to leave my job to take care of Dorian. It was a full-time job, so the financial burden on me was huge, and I received so much help from organizations in the state that I really couldn't have done it without it. So I want to give back to families that are going through the same problem. And then finally, supporting research. So Dorian's specific cancer, rhabdomyosarcoma, is really under-researched. When he was diagnosed, they gave him a 20% chance of survival at diagnosis because they had no idea really how to treat this cancer.
They just didn't know what it was.
Right. I mean, there are some kids, obviously, that have rhabdomyosarcoma that survive, but the medicines aren't good enough. And so research to get better treatments for rhabdomyosarcoma and other cancers, obviously, is a huge part of what we want to do from the foundation.
And this was an ongoing battle for you guys. We kind of, the community, besides your immediate group of people, the worldwide DStrong movement kind of came in at the end of the battle.
Right.
So this was an ongoing process from 4 to 8 years old. Mm-hmm. So I really think a support group like this, the foundation, can really raise awareness because you said you were a single mom doing it on your own. So maybe that financial help can really help a lot of people in your situation.
Absolutely, and that's what we hope. We really hope that the foundation can make that impact for other families that just say, gosh, without this foundation, we really would have struggled. And that if we can make it that much easier during this really trying time for the families, it's not just the children, it's the families going through this as well. If we can ease that burden a little bit for these people, then that's our goal.
And you've been doing so much work through the foundation. I mean, I follow you on Facebook and on Twitter, and you've been doing so many activities, doing the fundraising, doing the outreach. Let's talk a little bit about that and keeping it in Dorian's name. I saw you had a bench unveiled. I saw you do the Santa run. Right. So what have some of these events been like, and do you think that it's working?
I do think it's working. So these events have been really amazing. The bench put in at Dorian School at Springbrook, the buddy bench. So it's, if there's any kid that doesn't have anybody to play with at recess, they can sit on the Dorian buddy bench and another child will come and play with them. So it's encouraging.
Okay, wait. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
So the buddy bench.
Yes.
So if anybody, how does that work?
So if
that just gives me goosebumps.
I know, it's
what a
wonderful.
great idea!
It's really wonderful. And that was the school's idea. They came to me with it and asked, "Can we do this?" And I was completely on board because, of course, I want kids to feel like they have friends at school. So yeah, it's there so that if there's a child that doesn't have anybody to play with, they go and sit on this bench, and it's a sign to the other students and the teachers that, hey, I need a friend, and so other children are encouraged to go play with that child.
Go! Let someone come play with me. I need a
Exactly.
partner to play tetherball or whatever it is.
Yep.
That's neat. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just got chills for a second. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Wow. Okay. So the buddy bench, and then you've had, some other fundraising things like the Santa Run. That was a great video.
Yeah, the Santa Run was amazing. In previous years, we had seen the Santas, and Dorian, we would see them every Christmas, and he got such a kick out of it. All the kids do, And then so this year, to be a part of that, for them to wear a patch on their backs that said DStrong with his face while riding the bikes in the Santa suits was really just so honoring to Dorian, and I know he would have loved it. He really would have.
And some of the other things I saw you collected toys and took them to Hasbro. What was that like to be back?
It's always a surprise going back to the hospital. I have been back a few times to drop off the stuffed animals, to help out with the Izzy Foundation, to drop off toiletries and stuff for the families on the 5th floor. And it's always a little bit different. I can go into the Tomorrow Fun Clinic and I see faces that I know, the nurses, the doctors, and some of the parents and the children. And it makes me happy to see them again. They were such a big part of our lives and such an important part of our lives for so long. That when I see them, it is emotional, but in a good way. And then I'll see a clinic room or up on the 5th floor of Hasbro, seeing the room that he was diagnosed in or where we spent 2 weeks. And that can bring a lot of anxiety to me. When we did do the stuffed animals, it was really difficult for me being back up on the 5th floor, just because we spent so much time there, and it's where he had his seizure. It's where he was first diagnosed. There's so many bad memories of that, but there's also so many good ones, which is why I want to keep going back and help out where I can, because although there's negative memories, there's also really positive ones.
And do you think doing this work and through the foundation, it's helped you move towards healing?
Absolutely. So going back to your first question about, how we're getting along, this is how my grieving is getting me. I'm okay with it, doing something to help other children and other families that are in the same position that Dorian was and that I was. It's helping me grieve and express myself and not hold all that anger and sadness in. This has definitely been a savior for me.
And you're touching families in a positive way, and I would think that you're helping families get that message across. And when you go to events like this, what do you say to people? Are people coming up and asking you questions? Do you feel like you're making a difference in their lives?
I think so. A lot of people will come up to me and they share their story about Dorian, about how Dorian impacted their lives, and I love hearing it. People ask me, are you sick of hearing about this? And the answer is always and always will be absolutely not. I love hearing these stories about how my son changed your life. And I love when people come to me after I do events or do speaking to high schools or at these events, and they say, gosh, I had no idea that pediatric cancer had this effect, or I had no idea how important blood donations were. And when they say that to me and they say, you've changed my opinion, I'm gonna do something to help, that's how I know that I am making a difference and that people are paying attention and listening and that we're going to move forward somehow.
So, and that makes a great point, is you've helped change and people want to do something to help. What do you think is one simple way people can help?
Blood donations are the biggest way people can help. Okay. Dorian received over 100 blood and platelet transfusions over his 4 years. I don't know the real number. I know it's well over 100. But without blood and platelets, I would have lost him 4 years ago. So that is the most important, and it's so easy. Blood donation is an hour of your time.
And we all have it.
We all have it.
We all have blood.
And people who donate in Rhode Island, that blood stays in Rhode Island. And Dorian was O positive. So when people say, oh, I'm O positive and I donate, I love to say, you may have saved my son's life.
Yeah.
You may have given your blood to my son and given his father and I and our family more time with our son. So blood and platelet donations are so important. And then in addition to that, like there are reasons why you can't give blood. You know, a lot of people just physically cannot do it. So just supporting, if you have a neighbor and their child has cancer, there are so many easy things you can do. Walk their dog while they're away, take out their trash for them, pick up their other children from daycare. These simple acts of kindness are what make a huge difference to pediatric cancer families, because they're so overwhelmed with everything going on at the hospital that it's the small things that slip by and are most appreciated when someone helps out.
That can make such a huge difference in someone's life.
Absolutely.
And you had some exciting news through the foundation that you wanted to share. The DStrong movement and DStrong license plate. You had some news to share with us.
Yes, yeah. So the license plate, I met with the DMV yesterday, and we are moving forward with that. The bill was put to the Senate last year, and it was approved recently, and they just contacted me and said that they're ready for the design. So I'm going to be working on getting a design for the DStrong license plate.
That's great. And you said, and for people that might not know, so when you go out and you see people driving around, instead of just the wave, you can see specialty license plate, like there's a Plum Beach one, there's the Mr. Potato Head that helps the food bank, so there's going to be a DStrong one,
right.
And the proceeds will go to the Dorian Murray Foundation?
So it's going to be split, yep, so it'll be $41.50 for the plate, for the specialty plate, and $20 comes to the foundation, and $20 goes back to the production costs. And all of the proceeds that we receive from the Rhode Island plate will stay in Rhode Island and go to Rhode Island-based charities to help pediatric cancer. And we're really, really excited about that. So it'll have the Dorian J. Murray logo or just the name on it. And then I'm working with some of Dorian's friends from clinic that are either currently still fighting or have fought cancer, and having them help me with the design. So we're putting it together. I'm really excited about it. It's a new adventure for us, but I think it's going to be great. I'm really excited about it.
I think that's fantastic that you're working with some of his friends to help design this plate. I think that's incredible.
Thank you. And because it's the Dorian J. Murray Foundation, or the DStrong license plate, but I really want it to reflect all of the children here in Rhode Island that are fighting cancer, because it's such an overwhelming number. There's over 100 children every year fighting cancer in the state of Rhode Island. So I think it's important to represent them on the license plate as well.
And you know what, you've been working with some of these children locally that have cancer within our state. And I found it actually really surprising when I looked into the numbers of pediatric cancer. And the portion of cancer funding for pediatric cancer is really quite alarming.
It's very low. So on average, it's 3.8%, always less than 4. So there's this slogan, more than 4, kids deserve more than 4. But last year it was 3.8% that the children got as a whole for pediatric cancer funding. And it's not right. We need more than that. And that was part of our Project 3.8 campaign that we launched last September, was to bring people to be aware of the percentage. It's so low, and our kids need better. 3.8% is why, when my son was diagnosed, they gave him a 20% chance of survival, because only 3.8% is going to research. And these campaigns, like Project 3.8, where we focused on 20 children that have a pediatric cancer, various kinds, and showcasing them in their fight face stance, like Dorian with the boxing gloves. And it was a great campaign. We had over about 2,500 viewers over September and October come and see the portraits. And again, they were all really moved, saying, gosh, we had no idea that the funding was so low. And what can we do? And so awareness campaigns like this are really what's going to make a difference with our research. So the Breast Cancer Pink campaign in October, that didn't happen overnight. That took years and years of women advocating for breast cancer. And so as moms, parents, caregivers for children, we're advocating the Gold campaign, which launches in September.
And you went to the Pawsox game.
We went to the Pawsox game with our Gold shirts, exactly. So we really hope that the Gold campaign can raise as much awareness as the Pink Ribbon campaign does for breast cancer, but we're working really hard on that. And it's not going to happen overnight, but the more that people are involved, the higher that number is going to get, and hopefully we can break past the 4%.
And with that, and with the Project 3.8, I was alarmed again with the numbers, and it was a family friend, Robin Ivy, who took that picture with Dorian. I mean, it's a now infamous picture of Dorian in his boxing glove stance, and you recreated that through Project 3.8. And I also read something that there was one community in Rhode Island that had several kids that are fighting pediatric cancer.
Yes.
Was that surprising to you?
It is. It's shocking. When you find a cluster like that of children that have pediatric cancer or any cancers really that's in a cluster in a small town, you have to wonder, is it environmental? Is there something in the water? Is there something in the air? Is it something in the food? It is. It's so alarming. And there were 5 children from North Smithfield that were fighting cancer all at the same time. And that's so, it's scary to think about that. Research shows that it's not environmental, that pediatric cancers are not based on what we're eating and what we're drinking, and that it's just bad luck, essentially. But it makes you wonder when you see clusters like this, like how accurate is that information?
Yeah, a little bit scary.
It is a little scary.
So Project 3.8, and you worked with these families. What are you hoping to see become of this? Or do you hope that continues? Because I looked at some of those pictures and read their stories.
Yeah.
They were beautiful pictures. And were you surprised that Dorian's picture really took off like that?
Absolutely. So as far as where we see 3.8, Robin and I are considering launching it again this September. We're also thinking about bringing it out of state. We haven't made those concrete plans yet, so I'm not going to say which state we're looking at right now. But, overall, we'd love to bring it to each state and to say, like, these are the kids in your hometown, in your state, where you live, and look how beautiful they are, but they're going through this fight that most adults are afraid to go through. And so, again, it comes back to just bringing awareness to different states and to all sorts of people and just saying, hey, pay attention, because these are our children, this is our future, and we're not giving them enough credit, we're not paying enough attention to this. And as far as Dorian's photo, Robin took that photo, I want to say 3 years ago now, and it was just one of those, like, hey, let's have a photo shoot for fun, So we went out, we snapped some photos, and she captured that one. And it really became one of my favorites. It's been the screensaver on my laptop for years, and Robin and I always talk about it, just how awesome that face was. And then when the DStrong movement started last January, I wasn't surprised that people connected with that photo so strongly, because it really just showed his fight face and what he represented for cancer, and how he was just going to keep fighting it, and he really did. And so I wasn't surprised that picture became so popular, but I'm honored that it did, and I really value what people saw in that.
And it really resonated with people.
Yes.
So Dorian's birthday was in January, and you really asked people, and you reached out on social media, do good deeds for Dorian. It took off. Were you surprised to see that?
I was surprised to see that. I really was. I can't take all the credit for that idea. So I belong to a forum of moms on Facebook, and it's a bereavement group of moms that have lost their children to cancer. And I kind of put a post out there and said, gosh, it's his birthday, it's his first, I don't know what to do with myself or how to express it. And one of the moms said, hey, what we do on our son's birthday who had passed is we just do really good deeds for each other, and we do it for strangers, and we just kind of go from there. And I said, God, I love this idea. And people were so moved by Dorian. I'm like, we can do something good here, and if we can get just a few people to do something nice in such a time where there's such political war happening and people are at each other's throats on Facebook, you can't open it up without seeing people arguing.
Something is always going on.
It's all over the place. So when I posted it, I thought maybe this will get a little bit of attention just with my Facebook community. But then it blew up, and people were so happy to be involved with it, which really inspired me to keep that moving. So just something as random as buying a cup of coffee for somebody else
makes a difference.
It makes a difference,
really
because
does.
that person is smiling, and if the person said, oh, it's for Dorian, then they're remembering Dorian's name, and somebody else is remembering Dorian, and it's just bringing that love back. And it reminds me that people haven't forgotten about my son, and they haven't forgotten what DStrong means, and they're still listening.
They are still listening. What do you hope that Dorian's lasting legacy will be, or the DStrong legacy will be?
I hope that his legacy encourages people that when they're facing a difficult time and adversity in their life, that they can realize that they can get through it. Dorian struggled half of his life, quite literally half of his life, was completely focused on negatives, like having the cancer, having surgery, having chemotherapy, but he smiled through all of it, and he stayed positive, and he had that genuine ability to make people happy and to smile. And that's what I want people to remember about him and to think about when they're going through struggles, that there is still a positive side. There is a light, and as grim as things may seem now, you can always find a silver lining in things. And I think Dorian showed the world that that's possible.
Melissa, thank